They do say there's two ways to get people to listen. There's the soft method where someone speaks very quietly and hopes people will listen, and this is the method of many great readers, and also Allah Ta'ala encourages it in the Holy Quran. But I'm going to try plan B today, and I'm going to be a bit louder, inshallah, see if that works. Anyway, thank you very much. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And on behalf of the IUS, I'd like to convey again our thanks for allowing us to visit your facilities and participate in your programs. Thank you very much. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. Truly, in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the varieties of your languages, such as we've been hearing today, mashallah, and your different colors, truly in this is a sign for those who have knowledge, who are knowledgeable. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
When we look at the ahadith describing the community of the followers of the Imam, may Allah hasten his return, and this is regardless of whether we look at the hadith regarding the time when the Imam was actually present in society before the ghaibah, or now during the extended absence of the Imam or the ghaibah, or even in the time of the zuhur of the Imam, and of course afterwards. In all of these times, it is quite clear that the community of the true followers of the Imam, that is to say the true Shia, is a global community, a community spread throughout the world and united with no difference between them. And incidentally, I used the word true Shia, true followers, because as Brother Hasnain was explaining last night, for those of us who had the privilege of listening to him, even during the time of the presence of the Imams in society, unfortunately, not everyone who called himself a follower of the Imam indeed behaved in that manner. And so the Imams many times would, to coin a phrase, they would tell people off and say, sorry, you call yourselves a Shia, but you are not one of our Shia. Our true followers are pious and humble and sincere, etc. But the true followers of the Imam in any era are a united community. And this is something that Imam Sadiq has said quite clearly. And what I'd like you to notice about what he said is that he did not say that we should be a united community. He did not say we should not disagree with each other. He said our followers are Shia, after describing all of the characteristics of the true Shia of the Beit alayhi salam. Then he said, despite the fact, well, he said it in Arabic, but translated into English, he said, despite the fact that our followers have come from different countries, have different languages, different colors, they are united with each other. What is in their minds, it does not differ. Sorry, was I too loud there? In any case, so you'll notice he is stating a fact. He's not giving us a recommendation, and this is part of the effect of the wilayah towards Ahlul Bayt, the allegiance towards Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salam. It transforms us. It transforms what is inside of us, so it makes us in harmony or in unison with the Imam. It's not simply something which is a surface level allegiance. I say, yes, I think I'll be a Shi'i and check off this box, and then I'll go on with the rest of my life. If someone is serious about their loyalty and their allegiance to the Imam, then this is something that will make them a different person. It's spiritually transformative. And this is why, for example, when we look at the great Shia, even, for example, in the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, alayhi salam, we don't say, oh, Salman al-Farsi, he was one way, Miqdad, he was another way. No, we look at them and we say they're very similar. Sometimes we speak of these people interchangeably. And this is not because they came from the same place, it's because they had wilaya so strongly to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that this sort of made them in harmony with the one they had their allegiance to. This is why we say Salman minna Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So this is something that is a fact for those people who are true followers of the Imam. Inshallah, may we all be counted among those people. Furthermore, it's something reflected in many of our texts. Inshallah, many of us, for example, recite Dua Ahad every morning, in which we give our allegiance to Imam Zaman. May Allah hasten his return. If we don't recite it every morning, that's not the end of the world. We can recite it once in a while, but inshallah, we recite this dua once in a while. And what does this dua say about the community of the followers of the Imam? There's actually something quite beautiful in the middle of the dua. In that, in the middle of this dua, we ask Allah Ta'ala to send the salams of all of the mu'mineen and mu'minat throughout the world to our Imam. So maybe some of us perhaps were sleeping, we overslept, we missed Salat al-Fajr, or whatever the case happened to be. It's okay, we're going to take responsibility and give the salams of our brothers and sisters to the Imam. But which brothers and sisters? Is it just people in one country or another country? It's the mu'mineen and mu'minat fi mashariq al-ardi wa magharibiha. So both in the easts and in the wests of the earth. So we're not even talking about one east and one west like we talk about today. Easts and wests, and fi sahliha wa jabaliha, bahriha wa barriha wa bahriha, etc. So it's very clear that we are conveying the salams of the mu'mineen and mu'minat, of course, from all around the world to the Imam. And one of the interesting things that has been very aptly observed about this dua is that when it was related, there were not so many followers of Ahlul Bayt in the West. Of course, in those days, from the Islamic perspective, West was somewhere around Morocco. Nonetheless, there were not in immense numbers of followers of Ahlul Bayt in that area. I don't know, maybe there were 10 or so. There may have been more, because people would flee because of persecution. But nowadays, if we fast forward many centuries into the future, we find there's a tremendous presence of the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam in what is commonly called the West and many other places. Granted, we are not the most numerous here. There are many more of us in other countries, but I think we do have a very strong and established presence, and I do think we have a strong voice in the world community of Muslims and in the school of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Inshallah, I think because we have a lot of resources here and we do have the freedom to speak. So it's almost as if this dua were prophesizing that this would be the case. Or for example, another hadith that's always stuck in my mind. I'm sure many of us have heard the recommendation that when the Imam comes, we should hasten to meet him, even if we have to crawl across ice to get there. So sheets of ice, you have to crawl across them. I saw a video of something like that in Britain. It was last year or another year before that, when there was so much ice that people had to crawl across it because they kept falling over. So this is what the Prophet and the Imams were advising us to do. Now, of course, this is not for those special 313 followers of the Imam, because it said they will be instantaneously, or thereabouts, very quickly transported to the Holy Kaaba where the Imam, inshallah, will appear. But for the rest of us who don't have the honor of being those 313, but still have the honor, inshallah, of seeing the Imam. But what gets me about this hadith is that this hadith was related probably somewhere around the holy city of Medina. For example, we have a narration from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam. So maybe Medina, Mecca, somewhere thereabouts. I'm sure some of you have been to the holy city of Medina, perhaps for Umrah, Hajj, etc. Have any of you seen sheets of ice in that area? You know, you go out from the city, you have to get ready for Hajj, you know, get your ihram ready. I don't know, for when you don't have ihram, get your sunblock ready. and then you prepare for the sheet of ice to crawl across. Yes, of course, there isn't a lot of ice around there. And that's the point. He was not speaking to the people in a way which was reflective of their circumstances, like we usually do. Typically, we, including the Holy Prophet, when they would speak to people, and when we speak to people, we use language that's appropriate for the environment. So, for example, if I tell someone to get some milk in London or in Dublin or somewhere else like that, you know, a big city, I don't say you need to go and buy a cow and milk the cow, although we saw some nice cows on the way over here, but I say go to Tesco or something and buy the milk. So he was speaking in a way which is out of context for the environment, and to me this suggests that perhaps this implies that the believers will be coming from very far distances, from very far lands, Siberia, here for that matter, other places, to hasten to join the Imam at his zuhur. Perhaps it was indicating what would be happening in the future. And of course, when we look at the narrations we have in general, it is quite clear that at the time of the zuhur in particular, the followers of the Imam will be coming from a vast variety of countries and ethnicities. It's not as if they're all going to be represented from one country or one tribe or one group. It truly is a global community. Like I said, it is when it comes to those who are definitely in the line of the Imam, so to speak. And it should be for all of us who we just say, well, we're lovers of Ahlul Bayt, and inshallah we are among the Shia, like I would say about for myself. So this is our ideal, and to some extent it is a reality among those select few who are the true Shia of the Imam. But as we are undoubtedly aware that as Muslims, and that includes in the school of Ahlul Bayt, this is not the reality on the ground for much of our community. Our community is very fragmented and divided and disunified in a lot of different ways. And there are many ways. We have a lot of issues with intolerance of political differences, differences in ideology, and other approaches. Two people might both have halal approaches to a problem, so we're not talking about people doing haram things. We're sometimes much more tolerant of that. But we just simply can't get along with a lot of things. And I would say, in particular in the West, one of our major problems is we are extremely fragmented according to ethnicity and culture and language. And by the way, I'm not trying to be excessively negative today, but they did ask me to speak about the problems we face as a community and as a community of followers of the Imam. May Allah hasten his return. So that's why I'm being a little bit negative. But that is the situation, and it's a bit ironic. You would think that us as Muslims or in the Jafari school of thought, we would be more united when we're a minority, but that's not the case. We seem to be even less united. And some people might say, well, is that a problem? Is it really a big deal if we can't get along and every ethnicity has its own Islamic center here, and I'm not friends with so-and-so because they're not from my ethnic background or don't speak the same native language, etc.? Some people actually say, no, that's not a problem at all. But apart from the fact that this is very clearly not the model being drawn out by all of the hadith discussing the followers of the Imam, may Allah hasten his return, it is actually a problem both for our communities and for ourselves. Now, on a community level, this should be obvious why it's a problem, because we are in a minority situation here, and we are a lot stronger when we work together, when we are united, when we can get along. Believe me, no matter how disunited we are on certain things, we have much more in common than we do things that are different. And I understand that part of this may come from a feeling of needing to be defensive, and we feel like we're under attack by society, so we sort of need to be closed off, even if that means closing ourselves off from other brothers and sisters in our faith. But ultimately, if we want to grow as a community and not be defensive all the time, if we want to flourish, we do need to eventually overcome that and look to how we're going to build and grow as a community. And that's something we will best be able to do together. And we are seeing that, inshallah. This group, I know, is the Unity Society after all, so we're working on it. But it is definitely a societal issue. But I think perhaps even more important to some of us is that it's an issue for us ourselves too. It's a major issue for ourselves. Because ultimately, when we can't deal with other people, or when we don't want to deal with other people because they come from a different